Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Tastefully Balanced. I'm Miriam, and I cannot believe I'm saying this, but it is November, and that means a new series on the channel. And I figured with the temperatures really cooling down, why not do a chili soup and stew month? The first one is going to be a very classic beef and potato stew, and it's just so delicious, especially on a cold, rainy day like we are having. So if you guys love easy recipes, please hit that notification bell, subscribe, and keep watching. All right, welcome back. So I am using my big old Dutch oven for this recipe. First thing I'm doing is adding some olive oil. Any type of oil will do. And then I'm going to add in some red onions, scallions, and some garlic that I've minced up. And then also some celery and carrots. So these are going to be all of my vegetables. I'll add potatoes all the way at the end, but for now these are my vegetables that I really want to get nice and kind of softened so that you don't crunch down on anything in this stew. So you can add any type of vegetables. I've added bell peppers, which is really good in this, and also mushrooms, but neither I had on hand, so this is what I am working with today. And after sauteing those for about 5-6 minutes, I added in about 3 small Roma tomatoes that I've diced up and a lot of cilantro. Now, cilantro is not everyone's favorite, so leave that out if you don't like it, but I love it, and I love adding a lot of it because I think it flavors up the soup really well, or the stew really well. But just sauteing this up a little bit more, getting rid of some of that moisture from the tomatoes. My tomatoes were kind of ripe, so they were a little bit more liquidy than usual. And now I add in my beef stew. I just bought regular beef stew, and honestly, beef stew is a little bit of a cheaper cut, so you just want to make sure that you cook this for a long time. And as for spices, I am adding in some cumin, adobo seasoning, salt, pepper, and some chili powder. So really easy, simple spices, nothing too crazy. The adobo seasoning, if you don't have, you can just substitute that with just additional salt. It's got a little bit of flavor to it, but it's really not necessary if you don't have it. And that's it. You want to just saute your meat until it's a little bit cooked, but don't worry, it doesn't have to be fully cooked because we are going to be simmering this stew for a long time. The longer you simmer it, the just better tasting and more tender that meat gets. So forgot to film this part, but I just added in my beef broth. You can use the paste if you have it, or if you have just canned beef broth, use that. And then I added in a bay leaf just to flavor this up a little bit more. And now you just let it simmer away for at least an hour and a half, 2 hours if possible. The last 20 minutes, what I like to do is add in my baby potatoes and just let that kind of simmer away as well. It's just, I cut it in half, but really if you want bigger chunks, go ahead. But I added about 1.5 pounds because I love potatoes in this stew recipe. And then after 20 minutes, check that your potatoes are nice and soft. And now to thicken this up a little more, I'm making a cornstarch slurry. And really I only did about 1 tablespoon at first, but that really wasn't enough, especially because my husband likes to have his stews really thick. So I ended up adding 2 more tablespoons later on just to really thicken this stew up. But it's really up to your preference. If you want this to be more soupy-like, then leave it as it is, but the cornstarch is what really helps to thicken up this stew. And you just let it simmer away a little bit longer with that cornstarch slurry until you get it to that consistency that you like, and really that's it, you're done. Now we like to have this with a side of very crusty bread so that the bread really soaks in all of that stew, and that's really it. Some people like to have it over a little bit of rice, but we just like the bread and the stew, and it's just so good, and the meat is just so tender. I just love how soft the meat is, and the longer you cook it, the better it gets. I promise you that. And that is what is so beautiful about this recipe. And you don't need a Dutch oven. You can use any type of pot, but it's really easy and I love it. And it gets your house smelling so good and it's perfect for a cold, rainy day. All right, there you guys go. That is your first episode of my soup, chili, and stew month. I hope you enjoyed this really easy beef and potato stew recipe. If you did, please hit that notification bell, comment, like, share, and subscribe. And as always, live life tastefully balanced.